All right, world renowned family. I'm so excited to have all of you here this evening. We're going to jump right into this and get started. So welcome to Win Before You Begin, and we're going to have some impactful time together. We're going to be intentional with all that we do. And so here's what I'm going to ask of you. I'm going to ask you, number one, to just be present with us here in the moment. In the instance, I want to make sure that whatever you're doing, that you're locked in with us now. This is going to start promptly as we did at 6:30, and then we want to make sure that we're going all the way up until 7:30. So block that time out for us. Now, as we are present right here, what I am going to encourage you to do, to be ready to take some notes, be ready to dive in, have a pen pad, an iPad ready, because this is some of the best stuff that I've ever been exposed to really help me win before I began. So I just want to give you all a premise or pretty much a preface of what we're going to do here together and then what we're going to unlock as we go forward. First, there are a couple of things I want to bring to your attention. Winning takes place. The first note is winning takes place long before you ever begin. Before you start anything, the win has already been solidified, right? Coach John Wooden would always say that his championships were won in the preseason. His championships were won during the recruiting and when they went on the recruiting trail. So I want to ask you a couple of things before we get started. Are you preparing to win? Are you looking at, okay, yes, I really do want to win. I see myself being able to win, and I know that winning is inevitable because of what I've already done. Now, everything that we're sharing in here is going to be safe space, right? We're going to utilize the chat feature some. We're going to use some poll questions. But more importantly, here's what I need permission for. I need permission to talk to each and every one of you like family, right? I know if you've been with me for any length of time, you know that I value family, but I also know that with family comes tension, with family comes uncomfort or discomfort. And so I need your permission to speak to you like family so that we can really get all that we need out of our time here together. So when I say win before you begin, we're talking about a few things. The first one is win before you begin an endeavor. Maybe before you take on a new entrepreneur endeavor or a new business, maybe a new position, maybe a new relationship. How can you win at the relationship before you even identify who's going to be in the relationship with you? For many of us here in December, we're trying to win 2023 before it gets here. And we're going to learn those things right here. And here's what I'm going to promise right now. I promise that at the end of our time together, you're going to have an action plan to win before you begin. But you do not have to trust the promise. You can trust the results, right? And so if you all know me, you know that I believe in authenticity. I believe in making sure that I'm genuine. So as we prepare to win before we begin, these are our objectives. Number one, we want to increase our odds of winning before we lift a finger. And we know that in a couple of weeks, all of our friends, all of our family members, they're going to be excited to tell us all about their what? Their New Year's resolutions. They're going to be talking about these things that they're going to accomplish, and this is going to be the year. And you're just going to sit there and nod your head because you're loving, because you're kind, right? But there's going to be a little bit of you that says, what's going to make this year different? So I'm going to ask you the same thing. What's going to make this year different as we prepare to win? What's going to make it different? Number two, after we go ahead and increase our odds of winning before we begin, the second thing we're going to do is we have to identify what is a real win, right? How can we experience something that we haven't identified yet? Right? How can we chase something if we don't know what it is that we're chasing? And then finally, we're going to get that action plan so that each and every one of us know what to do tonight, tomorrow morning. Now, Neil, that's a big promise. It is a big promise, but the good news is it's going to require more work of you than it is of me. That's why I can make the promise. And if you're here because you believe in the promise, you want to have more than you currently have. Now, I must give all of us a warning. The process is simple. You all know that in life, I might look smarter than I really am, and it is true. So, what I want to do, I always want to take the complicated, I wanted to take those things that might be complex, and how can I break it down so that I can understand it? And what that means is I need to be able to explain it to a 6-year-old who can then explain it to a 6-year-old. So, as we look at our plans for success and to win before we begin, here's the next note after winning takes place before we even begin the endeavor. Do you know what your goal is so clearly? Do you know what your definition of success is so clearly that you could explain it to a 6-year-old who could then explain it to a 6-year-old? If we don't know it that clearly, we might need to hone in just a little bit. We might need to dive in. We might need to go in and do a little more research, because otherwise we're going to find ourselves frustrated throughout this process. Now, here's what I need. If you all can identify Mr. Marcus Scott, Marcus Scott is going to be guilty of what I'm going to mention right now. He is a cynic. He is a doubter. He is the person that's like, Neil, I don't really believe it. So here's what I'm going to ask all of you to do. I need all of you to do the exact same thing I'm going to ask Marcus to do. For the next, let's say, 30 minutes, 35, 40 minutes. Would you put all cynicism to the side? Would you put all all doubt, all fear to the side just for a moment so we can start walking in this thing of winning? So here's what the first piece of interactive portion I need us to do. Would you all just type win in the chat? And here's why, because I need us to get used to winning, even if that's just a small win. Because I see Eric, he did a big win. He put all caps on his win. Marcus, you can learn a lot from, and then Jose did win with win, right? And so already we see there are different levels to winning, right? What is a win to you? How does it look? How does it feel? How do you think? So we are going to have some poll questions. And as we go through these poll questions, everything is anonymous. I cannot see what your answers are individually. We only see them collectively. So let's dive in right now. I will tell you, if you have a question at any point, just drop that question into the chat. My wife, my team, my leader, we're going to make sure that we get those questions, and then we're going to address those at the end so that we don't miss the flow. So if you have any questions, be sure to drop those in the chat and we'll address those accordingly. So here's the first question, or here's the first tip, the first piece of going in and winning before you begin. You must believe that winning is possible. Right now, work with me for one moment. I didn't say I need you to believe that you could win. We're not there yet. I just need you to believe that winning is possible, right? How many of us are doing things in life and we're like, I think the game is rigged. It's sort of like going to the circus or the fair, right? The basketball or the ball toss, trying to knock the bottles off. And you approach the game never believing that any win is possible until what? The carnival guy does the thing and knocks it down or shoots the basket. Then you say, okay, I know it's possible, but it might not be possible for me. So I want to ask you right now, and you don't have to put it in the chat. Do you believe that winning is possible in whatever has gotten you here today? Do you believe that winning is possible, whether it's in your health, your finances, your relationship, in your business endeavors, in anything, in relationships? Do you believe that winning is possible? So that's the first thing I want us to ask ourselves. The second thing, after we've gone through in whatever circle of life that it is, we have to pause for a moment and we have to say, now that I know winning is possible, do I believe that I can win? Do I see myself as a winner? And here's the very first question that I want to pose to the group. I want to know in there, just go ahead and answer yes or no. do you usually view yourself as a winner? Now, I know that some of us are like, well, usually I know that that's not my first lean. That's not my default position, right? So do we see ourselves as winners? Yes or no? Now, some of us might have to be like, I don't really know. So we're going to keep this open for 5 more seconds, and then we're going to share this with the audience, right? With everyone here. Do you usually see yourself as a winner? So I'm going to share those results with you right now. Right now, there's someone in here. I'm more willing to bet that there's more of us, because here's what I'm going to ask you right now. In sports, do you cheer for the underdog or the champion? Right? And here's what we do. Many of us cheer for the underdog. Why? It's not because we love a true underdog story. Subconsciously, in our the psychology of ourselves, what we really see is we never identify ourselves as being a champion. Right? We want to root for the little guy or gal. We want them to dethrone the one who has dominance, who has legacy. And that goes back to, I always see myself as the underdog. Well, after we know that winning is possible, we have to say, do we believe that we can win? And not only do we believe that we can win, do we believe and do we see ourselves as the champ? And so my hope is in our time here together today. Now, I want you to believe in the champion. Now, I tell you, I'm a huge sports fan. I have my favorite teams. But if they're the underdog, it's hard for me to cheer for them, even if they're my team. Why? I identify with champions. I love when the Yukon Huskies ladies basketball team were dominant. I love when we had the Kentucky Wildcats, when the Patriots, like I'm a Ravens fan. I hate the Patriots, but I love a champion. Why? I identify with champions. I identify with those who dominate, those that are at the top looking down, telling others to come get some and catch us if they can. I believe in unfair results because I also believe in unfair work ethic, right? Like those that put more in. My favorite book says, if you don't work, you don't eat. In other words, if you're not going to put it in, I shouldn't take care of you. I should not lean up or let up on you. So here's what I'm going to ask now. Are you going to continue to cheer for the underdog out of the goodness of your heart? Or are you going to say, I'm going to cheer for, I'm going to root for, I'm going to put my energy behind those who are like me? Because what we know is if we can't see ourselves being, we're never going to root for. If we root against something, we will never be that ourselves. So I'm going to encourage you to believe that winning is possible, number one, to believe that you are a winner. But then, number three, not only are you a winner, to see that you are a champion. And a champion could look different. It could be a champion spouse or partner, could be a champion parent, champion business owner. Maybe it's a champion volunteer, son or daughter. Right. But I know that there are habits and there are things that we're going to unlock here in a moment that's going to move us further from underdog to champion. When your friends, maybe some of your classmates or your coworkers start saying, there's something about you different. We used to root for the same team and be like, yeah, we used to root for losers, right? No more, because we now identify with champions. Now, here's what we do know about the successful. Here's what we know about the winners in life. Number one, they know what a win is, right? So we often know, we've often heard, and I use this analogy often when it comes to direction, when it comes to GPS, we often only think about where we are going. Well, we also have to know where we are currently located. But before we talk about a current location, let me ask you, do you know what a win is for you? Do you currently have a clear definition of how to win before you begin? Not even the how, but do you know what it is that you want to accomplish? Have you gone through and looked at all of the things that are ahead of you over the next year? Have you said, is it my health? Is it my finances? Is it my relationships, my business? Maybe it's I need to take more time for myself. So here's my question for you. It's going to come right out of the notebook. And here's what, when I say the notebook, I'm talking about the movie. What do you want? Right? And that's not a light question. The question is, what do you want? Do you know what you want so well that you could explain it to a 6-year-old who could then explain it to a 6-year-old? Do you know clearly what it is that you want? And so here's poll question number 2. Poll question number 2 is going to be, do you have a definition of success? Do you have a success definition? So I'm going to give you all what my definition of success is. My definition is doing what I want, when I want, with who I want, for as long as I want. That's my definition of success. I can do what I want, when I want, with who I want, for as long as I want. Now, that's my overarching definition of success. And then in different circles of my life, I can go in and I can clearly identify what that is. Because unfortunately, we're told what? To know what it is you're going after, to have a vision board, right? We're told to have all of these things, but we're never told, like, is that your definition? Or is that someone else's definition? So we can see right now, some of us are like, I think I know. And so when I talk about a definition of success, I'm going to ask you this. Who or where did you get your definition of success from? Who qualifies or quantifies a win for you? Is it your boss? Is it your spouse? Is it your religious teacher or a colleague or a peer? Maybe your definition of a win came from something you learned from your parents decades ago and you've never questioned it, right? Maybe you've been chasing this win that has been elusive to you because it's never really yours. Maybe it could be that the sense of failure that you feel is because it's something that you're never supposed to be chasing anyway. Right. So that's where I want to encourage all of us to start asking this question. What is my definition of success? What do I really want out of life? I don't know if you all are familiar with Peter Drucker, but he is the father of personal development, right? And so this whole idea, or I'm sorry, business leadership, business and leadership and development, but he had this idea that many of us climb the ladder, spend our entire lives climbing a ladder, only to find that the ladder was leaning against the wrong building. Right. And how does that happen? Because we never pause long enough to figure out what we would qualify, what we would consider as a win. So one of my mentors, Mr. Jim Rohn, has a fantastic exercise. Maybe some of you have heard of the exercise. Maybe you've attempted the exercise, but you never finished it. And here's what it is. Jim Rohn encouraged us to write a list of 50 things that you want out of life. 50. Write down 50 things, not side by side, but vertically, so that you've got to flip a page. Put thought into writing 50 things that you want out of life. Can I challenge you to do that? Now, you're probably saying, Neil, 50 things, that's light work. That's easy. Let me tell you what I've learned. Once I get to 6 or 7, I really have to start thinking. Then by the time I get to, let's say, 17, now my mind really has to crank. For me to get to 30, now I've got to say, oops, that was a duplicate, right? What are the 50 things that you want out of life? What are those things that you really want to pursue? And then from that 50, we're going to go and say, all right, well, how many of these 50 really matter? How many of these 50 can I choose a top 10? Right? Because now we're starting to plan. Now this is the step in the process. Now that we know winning is possible, now that we know that we're capable of winning and we see ourselves as champions. Once we come in and define what a win is for us, now we're going to identify where we want to win. Is it going to be in our finances? Do we want more disposable income? Do we want more free time so we could travel? Do we want to be in better shape so we can go out and play pickleball or golf? Or maybe just not get tired after walking upstairs? Maybe one of our wins is we want to become more eloquent so when we speak in public, people understand that we are people of power and prestige, right? So we want to write down 50 things that you want most out of life. And then we are going to take that list of 50 and we're going to choose our top 10. 50 things, break it down into top 10. And that's where we're going to pause. Now, in our life, there are different circles, right? So there are circles when it comes to spiritual, family, business, financial, and personal. So for one moment, I want us thinking, where do we want to see more wins in our life? Is it going to be in your personal? Is it going to be in financial? Where do you want to see more wins in life? And then just go ahead and put those in. So this is multiple choice. Maybe you have multiple answers that you want to see. Maybe you're thinking, man, business is going fantastic in 2022. Maybe I need to see more wins when it comes to my family and my relationships. Maybe I need to take better care of myself. Maybe my business is doing good, but I'm spending just as much money as I am when it comes to my finance. So my financial thing has gotten a little bit out of order. All right, so we're going to now go ahead and 2, 1, close that poll, and we're going to share this. So there are two, business and financial. Those go hand in hand, ladies and gentlemen. But we want to ask, remember, we talk about those ladders being against the wrong building. So here's something that Jim Rohn would often say. He said that he spent his life in some areas, he realized that he paid too great a cost. There were some things that he chased after in life that were too much, that he had paid too great a price. So as we go through here in a moment and really start taking our 50, narrowing it down to 10, I want you thinking, is it going to be in this business, spiritual, financial, family, or is it going to be personal? Right? Because if we can figure those things out, if we can figure out really what it is that we want out of life, then we are going to win. Okay, so now that we've looked on the outside, we've come in and we said, here's what I want. We're going back to that GPS. So now that and ladies and gentlemen, this is not for us to complete today, right? I don't expect you to just be there writing down 50 things. This is just our framework. I want to make sure that, like Drake, we're here for a good time, not a long time, right? That we're going to give you the framework that you need. So then you can go in and do this homework. Now, here is the hard part. We've looked outside. Okay, Neil, she did it. I can do it. Got it. So winning is possible. I can win. I'm no longer cheering for the underdog. Now I am a champion at heart. I identify with the lions of the world, right? We're going to be the best of the best. We've got that. We've come in, we've identified what a win is for us. If we haven't yet identified what a win is, at least now we know the 5 circles that we want to identify, areas that we want to have goals in. Now, here's where the hard work begins. The hard work begins because now we have to look inward. We have to perform a you assessment. Now I'm talking about YOU. Perform a you assessment. When was the last time you performed an honest you assessment? I'm talking about a you audit like the IRS coming into your life. You know all of the dirt. You know all of the good, the bad, the ugly, the lies. You also know your strengths and weaknesses. Now, here's what I'm going to ask about your you assessment. 1, be honest, but don't be too brutal, right? Because we know ourselves intimately. Here's what I'm willing to bet tonight, even as we've gone through this process, you've probably said some things to yourself about yourself that you would never say to your worst enemy, right? You're the only person that's with you all day, every day. So as you go through your you assessment, we must know who we are, but we also have to give ourselves the same graces that we would give to our friends and family. Right now, we don't want to just totally absolve ourselves of responsibility, but we also don't want to be so hard and so difficult on ourselves that it really doesn't, do us any justice. So here's what I want us to think about as we know the goals that we want. Here's what I'm going to ask you. You all remember that SWOT analysis from econ class? And you're like, man, Neil, I do not want to do that. Those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. In your life, let's focus on two. What are the strengths that you have? What are those skills and talents, those giftings that you've been blessed with? Those things that come easily to you that others say, I would never do that. That thing that comes so easy that someone has suggested to you, oh, you should offer that as a job or a service. Someone would pay you to do that. And you're like, why would they pay me? This is so easy. What do you already have that you can use to get what it is you want? Because now we've gone through and we know what we want, right? We've done our goals. We looked at what our wins are. We've taken those 50 and broken them down into 10. Those 10 are speaking to us for a reason. Now we're going to identify what's going to help me get there. What do I have already? Maybe it's a skill, talent. Maybe it's a gifting. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe you already know the right people. Maybe you just need to ask the question. Could it be experience? Could it be that I don't know everything, but I've been through this before? I know what it's like to, lose someone. I know what it's like to be sick or to go through life change, to lose my job. I know what it's like to go through a divorce or to have a troubled teen, right? Could you use some experience that we could leverage to help others? Now, here's one that I'm going to suggest that all of us have, but we probably really don't think about it. What resources do you have? And I'm not talking about financial resources, but what intellectual resources do you have? What books do you have? So as you all can see, this is a photo of one of my bookshelves behind me here in our house. But here's what I have. For instance, if we're talking about diet and health, we've got the Daniel Plan, 40 Days to Healthier Life, right? So for me, this is something. If I want to win when it comes to my health, to my personal well-being, to make sure that I can live life the way I want to, I go and I get information. If we're talking about money, More Than Enough, Dave Ramsey. Right now, I'm not saying these books specifically. I'm just saying I don't know is an unacceptable answer in these times. Ladies, maybe you need something. Gentlemen as well. Maybe you don't have enough confidence. Maybe you just need to realize that you are a badass, right? And so we just need to come in here. And then Jen Sincero also, oh, that was green. Then think about that. Ha, I got the green screen going. You are a badass at making money, Jen Sincero. I hope none of my other books are green. Think and Grow Rich. We're talking about we want to be millionaires. We've never read the playbook, right? We've never gone in to see what Napoleon Hill, what Norman Vincent Peale, what W. Clement Stone, what Andrew Carnegie, all of these people, they're giving us the gold right here. We're talking about money. Oh, that one's going to work. The Millionaire Next Door, right? We want to work with, be like, network with, but we've never dove into what they're telling us so that we can understand mindsets. If we're entrepreneurs, if we're business owners, Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, right? So this is where I'm talking about what do you already have? Now, maybe you're like one of my friends and books, physical books are foreign to you. Maybe you are a Kindle reader, or better yet, or worse, depending on if you are one of the old school. Maybe Audible is your friend. Maybe it's going to be the audio book. I don't know if you all know this, but there are still libraries, right, that have free audio programs. My wife and I, we have Libby. That is one of them. There are also a number of other programs where with our library card, we just get unlimited audiobook borrows or physical books if we want them in person. Maybe you're saying, I need negotiation help. Well, we know Chris Voss never split the difference, right? And so these are things that I want us thinking, what resources do you already have that can help you get what you want out of life? Here's what I'm going to encourage you with. We're not so special that we're the first people to want to win before we begin. Remember, I told you that Coach John Wooden said the championship is won before the first set of shoes are laced up, before they dribble the first ball. It's won before we even begin. Have you prepared to win? Have you gone in and done your research? Do you know what it is you want? Have you identified someone else who has won? And then have you looked at their map or book or life or their interview and listened to, here, these are the challenges that I had. These are the things that I had to overcome. That's why I'm successful. I'm not that smart, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just smart enough to follow the people who were smarter than me, to go through and leave clues. We often hear success leave clues. Well, you're looking for success, but have you followed the clues that they've left? So after we talk about what do we have, that's going to help us get to where we need, I'm going to ask you this: what do you need? Right? We already have some things, but then what are your weaknesses? What are some things that maybe you need to overcome? Is it a lack of resources? Maybe you're saying my financial resources aren't what I need right now. They aren't where I'm supposed to be. Maybe you go get a library book and you just rent the books and you borrow the books. Maybe you find a mentor who's going to walk you through, let you have a book sharing program. Maybe you don't have the environment. Maybe that's a weakness for you. Maybe your environment, your associations just aren't strong enough to get you where you know you want to be. So we hear this all the time, right? I don't know if you all are aware of it, but the saying is that we become like the five people that we're like the most, right? That we spend time with. Well, actually, it goes back to John Wooden. It's called a 3 by 5. So we become like the five people that we hang out with the most in three different areas of our life: personal, professional, and social. So, who are your personal affiliations, right? Who are those people that are close to you? Who are your friends? You're going to become just like your friends. Business wise, professionally, who are you hanging out with professionally? These are going to be those people that shape how you think about business and finances, right? And then your associations or social, like not friends, but just casually, who are you hanging out with and how much time are you spending with those? Because we realize we have a set or group of business friends, personal friends, and then also just associates or those in our social being. So I would ask you, is your environment, are your associations conducive to helping you accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish? So I'm going to put up one more poll question for you before we continue. And here's what poll question number 2 or number 4 is. What's the primary reason you haven't won more? Right? Is it because of a lack of clarity or vision, fear of failure, procrastination? Maybe you don't know. Maybe you're saying, I've done everything right, I think, but I just don't know what it is. I don't know why I have accomplished this, right? I think that I'm doing the right things. Maybe I'm losing or I'm not winning because I didn't know what a real win was. Maybe any of those. Now, maybe it's something totally outside of here. Now, here's what I have learned, I've been taught. I know some of us probably want to say the reason I haven't won is because I've been sick. The reason I haven't won is because of inflation. I haven't won because of the economy. Well, those things are outside of our control. And there are some things that we can do as individuals, some things that we can do as winners to ensure our win. So here's what I'm going to look at just from the stats that we're looking at right now. For those of you who don't know why you aren't winning, that's going to go back to, more than likely, clarity and vision. So if we don't know why we aren't winning, we're missing some clarity. And here's what I mean by missing clarity. What have you attempted? Because now, if we know we want to win more, what have you attempted that you failed at, or you didn't have the level of success that you wanted? That's one piece, because we live with our failures on a daily basis, right? Our failures are often louder than the successes that we've had. So what have we failed at or not been as successful? Right? We know those. But here's the thing, that the piece that I'm going to ask you: have you paused long enough to go in and assess your failures? Have you gone in and looked to see, well, why didn't I win here? Why was I unsuccessful? Why did this become a money pit? Right? Why didn't I reap the rewards that maybe the work should have justified? Did I give up too early? Did I not give 100%? Was it just doomed to fail beginning because it was a bozo idea? right? So if we lose, that's one thing. If we don't learn, then we have failed. So my challenge to you, besides just knowing what we have to help us get there, knowing what we don't have and what we need to get there, we want to look at where we have been less than successful, where our results have been less than stellar. And then we want to come in and ask ourselves, what could I have done differently? Not the economy, not the government, not our colleagues or clients or family or spouse. What could I have done differently? Because if we can control it, then we can improve it. So here is the winning formula. This is the winning formula for how to win before you begin. Now, we've heard pieces of it, but now here is the full formula, the full equation. Motivation plus education. Here's the last part, plus application. Motivation plus education plus application equals a win. Because right now, I want you thinking about you've been motivated, right, to accomplish a New Year's resolution. You've been educated, you knew what you needed to do, but the application, more likely than not, has been the missing link. And we're talking about consistent application, applying it day in, week in, month, year. If you can apply, or my favorite word, execute, all of us should be executioners. If you can get motivated, if you can get educated, and then if you can start applying and executing on those goals, you have one choice, and that is to win or learn. Same thing. And then we're just going to run a second iteration of whatever it is. So motivation plus education plus application or execution equals win or success. So now that we know we have the winning formula. Remember that list of 10 things. We started at 50, then we went to 10. I want you to choose, not tonight, but your next step is I want you to go in and choose your top 3 desires. What are those top 3 desires that you want out of life? Let's say over the next year. What are your big 3? What if you only accomplish 3 things this year? But if you accomplish those 3, you would say, it's been a heck of a year. Maybe you want to get to your high school weight, right? Maybe you want to grow some hair. I don't know. Maybe you want to improve your spiritual well-being or your relationship. Maybe you want to close X number of deals or just have X amount of income come in. Maybe it's going to be one of them. I want to, travel for 2 weeks abroad. But what are those top 3 goals that you want to accomplish this year? When I say this year, ladies and gentlemen, we're already in 2023. That's a reality. For many of us today, we won't see our next check until 2023, if we are honest. So what we're doing right now, we're working on goals. We're working on accomplishments for 2023. So here's what I'm going to ask. Of those top 3, which one is your number one and most important, right? What's your second? Because if we don't have our priorities, if we don't set our priorities in place, life is going to prioritize it for us. What do you want to accomplish in 2023? What are those top 3? What's number 1, 2, and 3? Now, here's where the magic happens. Here's how we win before we begin. We start planning. But then as we look at our top 50, our top 10, our top 3, where on that list or what on that list, where is there overlap? Maybe you say, I want to get in shape. That's your number 1. But then in there, you want to spend more time with your significant other or your kids. Could there be an overlap if you all spend time playing basketball or walking in the park? Now, what if on your way to your top 1, you have family weekend activities on Saturday, and then on Thursday, you might go to the park or you play soccer, FIFA, right, in your backyard? How could you layer these things in to make sure that in a year's time, not only have you accomplished your top 3, but you hit 20 others on the way? That's how the best amongst us are winning. We are repurposing, we're multiplying. As Darren Hardy says, that we're using the compound effect to make sure that these small wins, that they add up and that they stack up to make sure that we have a big win at the end. Now that we know, as soon as, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to encourage you to get your list of 50. What's today? What, Thursday? I want you to have your list of 50 by Sunday. Have your list of 50 by Sunday, right? And here's why. Because we want to go ahead and experience wins before December 31st. We want to already have a streak going. We want to be on fire while everyone else is saying, yeah, I'm going to start on the New Year's, right? On January 1st. Can we have our list of 50 things by Sunday? Can we break that down into 10 things and 3 things by Wednesday? Now, I know it's going to require work. So can we do one by Sunday, the other by Wednesday? And then on Wednesday, we want to ask ourselves these questions. What one thing can I do for my top 3 priorities to move me closer to a win? What one thing can I do in the next 24 hours? What victory can I have, be it big or small? Maybe it's sign up for the gym membership. Maybe it's tell your significant other or your children that you love them. Maybe it's crack open your Bible or whatever spiritual book you read and just read the first verse, right? What can you do in the next 24 hours? Then we want to ask, what goals can I accomplish in 10 days? What activities can I do after 24 hours and then 10 days that are going to help me get a win? Because here's what I know. If we can get a streak of 10 days, then I know we're already going to have the momentum. Now, after we go 24 hours, 10 days, we want to go 90 days. Don't worry about all of 2023. I just want you to plan for success after we have those big goals for one day, for 10 days, for the first quarter of 2023. If you can win the first quarter, you'll win the year. It's going to be so good. You're going to look around, your life is going to be so transformed that now you're going to win before the second quarter even begins. You're going to win the third quarter before it begins. You're going to win 2023 today. By Sunday, the difference or the action, the activities that you do between now and Sunday are going to dictate what your 2023 looks like. Ladies and gentlemen, here's how I know this. Because for 6 or 7 years, this is the same formula that I've been taught. This is the same thing that I've done. This is what allows my wife and I, our friends, our family to enjoy a life that we still don't believe is ours. I'm just hoping that no one pinches us. And now here's something I'm going to encourage us to do. Now, this is just an asterisk. This is a bonus, right? If we want to win, there are a couple things that we need to do. First, we need to put ourselves in winning environments. Have you checked on your environment? You all see me looking over here a lot. Well, this is because over here, this is my whiteboard, my big board. I see what I'm going to need on a daily basis to help pull me through to my success. I have my yearly calendar over here on this wall. I have those daily activities, those weekly things. I have those reminders, those scriptures or quotes that pull me up to make sure that my environment helps me win. So after environment and associations, I only hang out with winners. For some reason, the losers just tend to fire themselves or remove themselves from my life. It's the weirdest thing. I find it so interesting. But then after we have our environment and our associations, we must develop winning habits, right? How are your habits right now? And you all know me. I say, if you show me one thing and tell me something else, I'm forced to believe what you show me. If I were to follow you, what would your habits say? If we couldn't talk for a day, would my observation of you say, oh, she's a winner, he's a winner? I can tell by the way he or she walks. I can tell by the activities they do before noontime. I can tell they're winners by how they answer the phones. What are those winning habits? And these are a few of them. What's your wake up and bedtime routines? Do you have habits when it comes to waking up? Do you know what time you're getting up? What you're going to do in the first 30 minutes of your day? Are you immediately opening your email? Are you looking at some junk in social media? Are you, yelling at the dog or cat because they made a mess last night? What's your morning look like? What energy do you have? What's a book end for your nights? Do you have a routine? Are you going to drink some chamomile tea? Are you going to read or listen to or watch something inspirational? Maybe you're just going to go sit in your favorite chair, decompress before you go lay your head down so you don't have all of that mess in there. Here's what I know: the best amongst us, they wake up, they have routines, they go to bed, they have routines. Other habits of the successful, of the best winners, the champions in life, come to food and exercise. Do you have good health habits? We hear it all the time, but I really start to think that we're believing it now, right? We have seen in the past 24 hours just some tragic news of people that we've identified, that we've seen maybe that were on top of the world, right? And then we realize, man, there was something missing. It doesn't matter how much we have if our bodies are not prepared to help us win. What's your eating? What is your health? What's your exercise like? Now, I'm not telling you you have to be a model of any type like Marcus Scott. What I am telling you is that we want to be intentional. We want to have these habits of the successful. Maybe it's going in and getting a book and saying, I don't even know what a good habit or a bad habit is, but I know where I can find one. Now, here's a question I want you to ask tonight, and then I want you to think about this tomorrow. What's your first win of the day? Right? We know, we've heard that you want to get your first win as early in the day, and we want our wins to be consistent. So for some of us, I know my wife, her first win is making sure that the bed is made flawlessly every morning. That's the first win. For me, I get up way before my wife, so that can't be my win. My win is, can I get my coffee made? Can I make sure I get my devotional read? Can I sit down and have my quiet time with God? So that's what I consider as a win. Now, here's what science tells us. Our first win needs to happen before 7:30 a.m. Our first win has to happen before 7:30. Now, for many of us on the call today, it has to happen way before that. And here's why they say 7:30, because they're anticipating an hour before the world attacks you. An hour before your world starts hitting you, making requests of you, starts draining you. You need to have some endorphins. You need to be pumped up. You need to say, yes, I have won. So for those of you who have kids, significant others, pets, who have someone else that's going to require something of you at 7:30, your win needs to happen at 6:30, right? Your win needs to happen ideally an hour before someone else start making requests of you. How many of us, we wake up and the first person talks to us and we're already drained because we haven't had a chance to get that flywheel of success going? So we want to ideally get our win before 7:30, but the rule is really an hour before the world meets you. So that means don't open your email as soon as you get up, because many emails are going to be loss after loss after loss. So Marcus says right there that his first win has to happen by 5 a.m. So now that we know the time that it has to happen, we've got to decide, what is your win going to be? For some of you, maybe it's just putting your feet flat on the floor and sitting up in bed. First win happen an hour before someone. Yes, go you. Can we get a string? Can we get a streak of those? Can we get 7? Can we get 3? Can we get 5? Then can we get 10, right? Can we get 90 days of winning in the morning? An apple a day. These small things go a very long way. And then here's what I know, all of us know: winners surround themselves with winners. They have teams, they have coaches, they have mentors, they have peers who want to see them win. They have cheerleaders cheering them on. I'm going to ask you, do you have a team that wants to see you win? If not, winning is going to be difficult. If you do, then you are already poised to win at anything, even before you begin. Now, that's going to bring an end to the time that we have. I want to say, first off, thank you all for hanging out with me. Thank you for hanging out here. I hope that you got some value here. The winning formula: motivation plus education plus application or execution equals win. Let's look back at our top 3. After we have 50, 10, 3, we want to have that 50 by Sunday. We want to have that 3 by the following Wednesday so that we can start executing. Now, here's what I am going to ask. If you have any questions, you can either put those questions in the chat or you can raise your hand and we will unmute you. I am going to send this link, the video link, to everyone just as a recap to you all. We are a few minutes before 7:30, so right on time. But here's my big ask of you. My big ask of you is to do something with what you've listened to, what you've heard today, because we know that education without application leads to frustration. And then we're going to look back on our lives, at ourselves, and say, man, I knew the right thing. I was excited to do it, but I did nothing with it. And that's where we start to live in regret and frustration. So if you have any question, you can either put it in the chat or on the reactions tab at the bottom of the screen.